minutes. I did send those out with the agenda. So does anyone have any questions, comments, or additions they would like to make regarding the minutes from the last meeting? If they seem to accurately reflect the discussion, if we could have a motion for approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Thank you. And a second?
I will second the motion to approve the meeting minutes.
And all in favor, signify by saying aye or raise your hands. Thank you. Okay, so we have approved the minutes. And then the next thing that I wanted to talk about is, and I intended to email it out earlier, but I just sent out a link to the ordinance that actually established us as a commission. And so it's there are some portions that are relatively straightforward or not terribly interesting as far as the membership, which is important, but it's there's someone from council, the mayor's representative. We also have a representative from the university who is a member of this commission, that she's not present. And so the membership is laid out, but then the interesting parts, I think, as far as those of us on the commission, is our powers and duties. And just a brief review of those, that review and make recommendations to the Athens city government on policies and procedures related to housing issues, including but not limited to zoning plan and implementation, fire, police, and safety services, recreational services, housing code and enforcement services, Athens city transit, streets and parking services, utility services, water, sewage, garbage, and recycling, existing programs and needs, safe routes to school, and Economic Development Council. And we are also to serve as a liaison between members of the community and local government, to respond to questions from the public, local government, and community, consult with city officials, council citizens, and institutions of Athens in implementing special projects, and inform the city of grant opportunities, and prepare and submit an annual report of activities to Athens City Council, and to make such other reports and recommendations to Athens City Council from time to time as may be deemed necessary. So one thing we need to do is make a report to council of our activities. The last report we made to council was, well, if I'm remembering correctly, Paul, lean on you, it's part of the recommendations that then cleared the way for the University Estates project to move forward. And okay, so we have been meeting and discussing, though not necessarily. I don't know as far as specific activities to report on, but I think that probably we should plan to report to council perhaps in February. Maybe we take some time, especially those of us who have been serving on the commission, and do a report of our discussions, as well as some recommendations for future, that, if we can pull that together in January so that then a report could be sent to council in February, that would probably be a good thing. And so that is our, that is who we are, what we are tasked with. And does anyone else have any thoughts or comments on the duties and responsibilities and things we'd like to see from this commission going forward?
Just to start, it's pretty wide open.
Yeah.
As far as what we could be doing. And I think since this group's been established, I think it's quite amazing actually how much we've already accomplished and how beneficial the Affordable Housing Commission has been to trying to advance affordable housing in the city. I was not expecting to see, personally, I didn't think we would be moving so quickly on some of these things. And so it's been great to see it. This has been a huge asset for the city, in my opinion. It seems like some of these things do kind of overlap with other boards and commissions that we have. And to me, we would probably want to make sure that if we're working in some of those lanes, I guess that we're not stepping on any other board or commission's toes, or if we want to work, that there's an opportunity to collaborate with others.
Right. Yeah, I was really thinking that, especially in terms of recreational services. I mean, we have a rec board, and that's so I guess perhaps in terms of how things like transit and services utilities relate to housing, those could certainly be things that we're keeping an eye on. But yeah. Any other thoughts or input on this agenda item?
Yeah, just as far as making reviewing what we did last year, and then maybe identifying some things that we like moving forward. I know we talked a lot about code, and then if we wanted to see change, that would be the avenue. And then maybe identifying these places that are being built or that are coming down the pipe. Do they, will they enhance the economic development of recruiting a business? Will this enhance the opportunity to have this housing if a company were to come in? Some of those, and I'm still kind of affordable housing, like true single family housing. I think we've identified very well the rental market, but the purchasing, that end of that, we haven't, do you agree with me? We haven't kind of fit that, like, what are we going to do about that?
Yeah.
We can't do anything.
Yeah, I'll chime in here too, because you bring up affordable housing's role in economic development, Susan, and that's one of the top things we hear from all of our businesses. It's hard to recruit and retain talent for a variety of reasons, but affordable housing is one of them. So those two definitely play off one another, and I'd love to see this commission kind of try to tackle that moving forward into 2021 and beyond.
Yeah, we know that the university they have, I'm not sure the right term, but an RDP or something like that. That's out there for the future. And with COVID, you just don't know what's going to happen. Some things obviously have been delayed. So I think that's very promising in the future. But, we only have that City of Athens window. So, has anybody come to you about annexing any more of land to the city, or are we not there yet?
No, the only one that we've had any discussions about in the last couple of years has been the one that's moving forward right now with respect on 682 across from University Estates. There's actually a lot of real estate at University Estates that's still to be developed, or has the potential to be developed. There's also the Oakmont Phase 4 real estate that's also in the city limits that is yet to be developed. I think with Oakmont Phase 4, there's a requirement on the books that for development to occur there, it needs to have a road built that would extend to Old Pomeroy Road, so that we're not having one way in and out of the subdivision like exists today.
I didn't think that was annexed already.
Yeah. Phase 4?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the end of Carroll where that fence is, all of that, I'm not sure how many acres. It's a big chunk of real estate, 40 or 50 acres at least, I think.
Oh, and so the owner already annexed that into the city.
Yeah, that's been in for 20 or longer years.
Oh, I thought it was county. Okay.
Paul, do you want to give an update as far as the University Estates project, that the TIF project?
Sure.
I know Molly had specifically asked about that.
Yeah, Molly, the TIF was approved by City Council, and so myself and our code director David Riggs and city engineer Jessica Dine, we've been in communication with them about the requirements, the standards for building, and those type of things. They expect to be breaking ground in the spring. They did already ask if they could do some earth moving just to make suitable building sites, and so I believe they're doing some of that right now, and then we'll start late winter. Depending on the weather, they'll start working. They've got to work through the permitting process first, but they're on track.
And do you know if the DTE form that has to be submitted to GSA has been completed? I believe the property owner has to complete it. Do you know about that at all, Paul?
Don't know. No, I'll double check though. That's a great question.
It's okay. I had a conversation with Lisa Eliason about it, and just because the EDC did so many of those DTE forms for the DRDs, we're familiar with them, and so I just wanted to I'll offer up my assistance in filling out as much as I can so that it's easy for the property owner. Just for tax purposes, we want to make sure we get that done.
Do you mind, Molly, if you get a few minutes after this meeting, if you can just send me a very brief email kind of identifying what you think they need to submit to the state, and I'll loop you in with them if you don't mind.
No, that'd be perfect. Yeah, I will do that.
Great.
And Paul, one question I had wondered about, I know people who live out on Walnut Court, which is way up there in University Estates, and I know that there's a requirement for phase 4 over at Oakmont that there's a secondary egress. I'm wondering where would we hit that at University Estates? Because there's only one way in and out of there, and they're getting, especially with the multi-unit section planned. What is that running in? Are we going to be running into issues as far as access for emergency services, or if there was some sort of an emergency on the one road in and out?
Right.
Then there are a lot of people back there, so I don't know. What is the number? Where do we hit that? Where there has to be another way out?
To your first question, yeah, there is a risk at both those locations today because of essentially the length of the cul-de-sac. If for nothing else, I believe under code, a cul-de-sac can't be any longer than 250 feet. And so variances were awarded for University Estates to extend beyond that for University Estates Boulevard. We have talked periodically about, I agree with you and so does the administration that a secondary egress at University Estates would be warranted. However, in the development agreement and the planned unit development that was approved roughly 19-20 years ago for that project, it wasn't required. And so we don't have anything to stand on specifically to University Estates. That being said, we've looked at some maps and we've identified some locations where, if the right things happen, that maybe we can be a part of making that happen, either onto, I forget the name of the road, either out to 682, kind of looping around to the north, or onto Armitage Road, one of those two, if there could be a connection. Now we have that bike path, that bike path's about to be all set up. And so there's, from foot traffic perspective and bike traffic, there is an alternative egress, but for emergency services, there's not. And the other risk, of course, is, a big risk in that area that we've identified is if there's a derailment at 682, that would really stifle emergency response to University Estates, as well as backup response to the planes and things like that from police and fire and sheriff's deputies.
Okay. Yeah.
Real concerns. I'm with you on that, Sarah.
Yeah. I just in thinking about adding a lot of units out there, That's yeah. So okay. And the next thing, I had hoped that Jody Reichert from MHA was going to be here today, but she had another meeting come up that she had to attend and was unable to attend this one. But she did send me a bit of information. I'm guessing everyone has seen in the news things that MHA no longer has. They've determined that Procos is not. I don't remember the terminology, but they don't work with Procos as far as granting vouchers. They're not an acceptable landlord for housing assistance purposes. And I know there's been a lot of concern due to the fact that there's already a short supply of rental units available that will accept housing vouchers, and that Procos is, of course, a very large landlord, and to remove their units from the available options. So Jody just sent me a bit of information that I would like to share with everyone, and that is they have approximately 300 landlords that assist Athens Metropolitan Housing Authority by providing housing in the private sector to clients who they have selected as desirable tenants. The program is designed to meet rental assistance to provide rental assistance to families struggling to meet economic needs. The AMHA Housing Choice Voucher tenants are issued a voucher, and it is up to the voucher holder to find the housing. And they will be given a list of landlords that currently contract with AMHA clients to see if they have anything available. And at times, landlords will contact AMHA to say they have a home available to rent, and AMHA will pass that information on to the tenant. Some will find new landlords that are willing to lease to the voucher holder, and these landlords are rarely located within the city of Athens. Finding landlords in the city of Athens to rent to low-income tenants is becoming more and more non-existent. Landlords within the city can get a lot more rental income from Ohio University students, and most rentals are absorbed by the off-campus housing demand of the Ohio University students. Another issue for low-income families in finding units available in the city is that there are very few that are handicap accessible. There are high needs for handicap accessible units for low-income families, and even most complexes usually only have a handful of units that are accessible. She also attached the AMHA payment standards that they have to work within and a list of the complexes that accept vouchers. And AMHA has to work within the federal monies that we receive to be able to keep all 833 or help all 833 voucher holders. And specifically regarding the Procos issue, the family's voucher is expiring on their annual, which means not all tenants are searching for housing all at once. So it wasn't okay, they're immediately all out. It's just as their voucher comes up for annual renewal, then they have to either meet the rent with Procos on their own or find a new landlord. And by the end of December 2021, AMHA will have no voucher holding renting from Procos rentals. So, and then in terms of what the payment standards are for 2021, is a 0 bedroom, so an efficiency is $650. 1 bedroom is $666. 2 bedroom is $758. 3 bedroom, $943, and a 4 bedroom is $1,028. And the fair market rents are set by HUD, and it's up to the housing authority to stay within 90% to 110% of the set fair market rent. And the percentage is based on how much funding a housing authority receives, so they can fully utilize the total available units. So that's the information that I received from Jody. And as a couple of topics that I have found in research and then that have been brought to me is one, the maybe altering the fair market rent geographic size that I brought up in a previous meeting. And unfortunately, like, Jody hasn't been able to attend, so I don't know if there's a way that MHA or we could work with HUD to establish a separate fair market rent for, say, the 45701 zip code, as opposed to all of Athens County. But as in a conversation with someone else, it's like, well, that could hurt individuals who live outside 45701 zip code, because then it would lower the fair market rent for the area outside of the city of Athens, but increase it for what is inside the city. So that's something that would have to be carefully weighed. And I don't know the process for getting that done anyway. But just the other avenue that has been mentioned as a process is to legally prohibit discrimination of based on source of income. And that's something that I believe we could do. Like, a city council could pass an ordinance to make it illegal within the city of Athens to discriminate based on source of income. So people can't just say, I don't accept HUD. But almost all the units are priced outside the fair market rent allowance anyway. So to me, it's kind of an empty gesture. It's like, well, then that just prohibits them from saying we don't accept it, but then they just say, well, but our rent for a 2-bedroom is $750, so you don't qualify. And so I feel a little stuck on that, because I'm willing to introduce it and bring it forward, but I just don't think it would have a real impact. But I did want to bring that discussion up, and I'm sure Noah is very familiar with the challenges in finding accessible housing and that will accept vouchers. And we've had that conversation here. I'm hopeful that we'll see some actual progress on this issue with the new development out on 682. That though they won't necessarily be accepting vouchers, but it will be an income-based, and there will be accessible units. And then as far as for purchase at University Estates, they're also going to be accessible units. Anyway, I wanted to throw all those things out and see if anyone has thoughts or things they'd like to.
Do we know how many voucher holders are with those?
I do not. I can email Jody back and ask. Yeah, I will ask her that and then send that out to everyone.
Susan,
Okay, the conversations in the past we've had, because we are stuck on this issue with the city, is going back to the idea of how do we get a landlord to buy into this, and maybe, going back to the incentive that they would take 1 or 2 of their units. And I don't know if that's really the incentive, is to provide at least 1 or 2 handicap units of their portfolio, to make it this kind of, use a voucher or make it handicap accessible, as a good gesture of being in the city. So it just kind of becomes part of the program as a good friend, a good neighbor. Obviously, it has to make financial sense for them, but it also could help in the sense of, okay, we have so many units. We've had that, but then like if you have an incentive,
I'm thinking, as the Affordable Housing Commission, we could definitely make a recommendation that the city create a good neighbor landlord recognition that they,
that's a good idea.
In terms of any financial incentives, I think we're probably up against a pretty solid barrier there. But perhaps the goodwill, the recognition. I think that's an interesting idea that, the city currently only gives one. They give out the Athena Award. And I don't want to in any way diminish that as sort of the only award given by the city. But if we could come up with something that would perhaps go hand in hand with that, because that's honoring people who work for individuals with different disabilities, that especially if we focus on the accessibility aspect of the housing. What do people think? We put that in our recommendations to council.
It could be. I mean, we've talked about it, and it's kind of the same old story, but then again, it's like, okay, I guess we need to identify the landlords and then how many units they have, and then who, this is what we're looking for. Some people might say, oh, I already have that. But then if it's a 1 bedroom, would they take the voucher? I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So I think we need to sort of, I don't know, obviously this is off the top of my head, but establish like a minimum criteria to be eligible. And then landlords could be nominated and then reviewed for, okay, well, who has the best, who I don't know. There's the Athens News used to always do the the best and worst landlords. So that, and I know the university frequently when we've met with student organizations at the university, they're like, well, how do students find out who to rent from and who to avoid? And so maybe just, well, hey, look, if you're wanting something that's good for your conscience, support the landlord that also supports these programs.
I like the idea
on the same page.
of an award.
I'm sorry, Noah.
I like the idea of an award.
Thank you. Yeah, this is. And you feel like it's a good step, sort of, in addition to the Athena Award, Noah? Do you think that's valuable?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody want to volunteer to sort of start drawing up the starting points for, and do we want it to be sort of a minimum qualifications and then a submissions, or we recognize everyone who meets certain criteria to encourage more participation?
Also, I can start working on it.
I can help you. I think the idea needs to be definitely, it has to be handicap accessible, right? And that they would entertain a voucher system.
Mm-hmm.
Can you take, let's say you have a house, it's 3 unrelated, and it's on Franklin. Okay, so it's near transportation, that you can get in and out easily. Can you have more than one person in that home with a voucher? Or can you rent the rooms out?
I think it's usually by dwelling, so that would go to a family that qualifies for a 3-bedroom house.
Okay.
That's my understanding, but I don't know that for sure.
It'd be great if we had a meeting where we know that Jody's going to be here, and maybe just kind of throw as many questions at her as we can, because I keep thinking like Susan. I was wondering something similar to that. I was also wondering if we and Susan, maybe you know this, but do we know what is an average rent in Athens right now for a 1-bedroom apartment or a 2-bedroom unit? So how, like, what's the spread from where we need to be to where we are? Like questions like that, I'm wondering. And are there ways, how do you make up that spread in communities where that are really high rent? But go ahead, Susan. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. I'll get the spreadsheet. I'll make a spreadsheet. But people are paying $750.
Yeah.
For a 1 and 2 bedroom. Mm-hmm. So it's gone up quite a bit. Mm-hmm. 2 new houses on Schaefer that were just built were only 2 bedrooms, and that's really interesting. So,
yeah. The 2-bedroom is $758. So
that's what got me thinking. But so I'll just get the spreadsheet. I can make it work. The apartments are different. You have a 2-bedroom apartment. People are paying $900 for 1,000 at University Estates. But then if you go outside, near the library, they're, I think, I can't, the numbers aren't exact, but they're about $900.
I also have, not to change the subject, but I have, we're updating our, the ACEDC is updating its strategic plan, and we do have a whole section in there of affordable housing with some tactics that I'll share with this group. It, kind of touches on some of the things we talked about, property tax abatement, rental subsidies, all of that. But I just want to make sure you guys see all of this, and I would love your feedback too, to make sure that the tactics in our plan align with the tactics of this organization or this committee. So, and I think some of it aligns, and I would like to improve on alignment forward.
Okay. Well, I'm excited because it's like, oh, hey, we have a new project, and it's something we've tossed around. Like, how do we incentivize landlords to sort of help with this issue? And so thank you, Susan. I'm like, yes, it's maybe something
Something will come of it. Maybe they'll buy in.
Right.
There'll be plenty who won't, and then there'll be some that will, or already kind of are.
Right.
Or some that want to, and it's just not possible. They're not able to get the way the house is designed. And
So, are there any other announcements or other business?
Idea. Well, I don't want to forget saying it. With all these vacancies, now is the time to do this, because with vacancies the way that they are, instead of selling some of these units or keeping them vacant, this might be an avenue to help them.
Yeah.
And then, it might be a way to do it.
Yeah, good thinking. So I'll reach out and find out how many vouchers are currently at Procos units, and that might give us an idea of how many people in the next year with vouchers are going to be looking for new places. And I know that there are always people looking for rentals that will accept vouchers. Joyce, not to put you on the spot here, are you willing to continue to serve?
Yes.
Your term expired. And I didn't.
I did not see the email, and then when I finally did, it was like maybe a month late, and I did respond, but I didn't know if you got it.
No, okay. Then that's on the agenda for council tonight. I will be nominating you and thanking you for your willingness to serve and continue to serve. I appreciate it, and
yes.
I'm glad you're able to be here today, so I could ask you.
Yes.
Okay.
With regards to everything that, we've talked about with the, accessible and the vouchers and things, I think this can really work in with, I know Paul sits on the housing domain for the age-friendly Athens County and Athens. And that really, this all will help with that companion piece that we've got there going too. So, and I think this, just because he and Shauna are both on that committee, I think that's, a result of this commission too, that they were able to sit on that and do things. So more accomplishments.
But yeah, I think the accessibility ties into age friendliness for sure as well. And that might be something that's more valued at perhaps single family dwellings than in complexes. So yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Well, very, very happy holidays to everyone. Thank you for taking time to be here with us today. And I'll email everyone what else any additional information I find from Jody, and remind her sort of that our meeting is a standing time, and hopefully she'll be able to join us next month.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.